The Prairie Style of architecture was developed here in the Chicago area by Frank Lloyd Wright. Now, the quintessential example of Prairie Style is the Roby House, which is the house that I am actually standing in. And I'm here to learn all about the hallmarks of this style. I'm hitting the road, searching for answers, and finding great design. It's a quest for beauty, function, and of course, inspiration. To discover all about the Prairie Style, I headed to the Roby House in Chicago to meet with Karen Sweeney, the Director of Restoration for the Roby House. So, Frank Lloyd Wright used many different styles.
Yes.
Was he the creator of the Prairie Style, or had that started before him?
His office creates a style of building that then later gets labeled as the Prairie Style.
So he didn't name it himself?
He didn't name it, no. Architectural historians have named it the Prairie Style.
Really?
What he does is he starts building buildings that he feels is appropriate to the prairie, to the setting they're in. So he has these long horizontal buildings with overhangs that reinforce it even more, bands of windows, and bands of masonry or stucco massing that really makes it feel like a prairie house because it hugs the prairie.
Because prairies are low and flat.
Prairies are low and flat.
And sprawling almost.
Yes, so that then the houses you build in them should be low and flat. But he does take a few things that he feels like are typical of American architecture. One is the hearth, and to have the hearth at the center of the building and have the building rotate around it. And his prairie houses have several standard floor plans that vary on that, where you would have that central hearth and then the building radiate around it.
Wright's abstract interpretation of the prairie in the styling of his prairie homes did not end with his use of long horizontal masses. Practically every part of the home was decorated with or created as abstract forms, typically inspired by nature. And the art class is very geometric.
Very
It's not
geometric.
flowing, it's all little tiny shapes.
Yet he calls it organic because he's taking forms in nature but abstracting them to then, which other artists were doing at the same time. I mean, this is all a kind of a synergy of minds when people are doing stuff like this. But Mr. Wright just always seems to take it that one step further and really elaborates on it in architecture.
So really it's almost geometric, abstract images.
Yes, and everything is like that. He has his lay lights in here that have this geometric shape. He has light fixtures that we'll be making reproductions of.
And even the carpet has that.
Even the carpet has that.
Wright's scrupulous attention to detail extended beyond the design of his homes and geometric patterns to his use of materials. Each material had a specific purpose to Wright and could not be interchanged. As a result, Wright took great care when choosing each material and would at times have specific instructions for how each material should be installed. Are there any materials that are commonly used? Because I noticed there's lots of wood and there's lots of glass.
Lots of wood, lots of glass, and the interior plaster and usually texturized. He tries in several different buildings different finishes on it. In this building it's it's painted, but it's dry brush, so there's actually 3 different colors of paint that go on the walls, and there's actually, then he hits it with a wire brush to actually expose some of the plaster aggregate.
Really?
So it's a mixture of all 3. Some of the other buildings have wax finishes on it, beeswax and stuff like that, so he tries all sorts of organic things to try and get different finishes on the walls.
Now I know there are certain bricks that are used in Prairie Style homes.
Yes, Roman bricks. They're long and horizontal. And then even the mortar joints are reinforced in this building, where we have natural mortar joints on the horizontal, and then we have red vertical joints that are flush with the brick. So it then emphasizes that horizontality again.
In addition to using certain materials, Wright also chose specific colors for his Prairie Style homes. The colors were typically earth colors, such as green, brown, or ochre.
It creates kind of that home feeling that you want to have, these colors. He also uses these colors because they blend with nature. And if we didn't have houses or buildings around us and you look out into nature, it would make that stronger connection.
Despite the dark colors, Prairie Style homes feel very open, and that was the feeling Wright intended to create. By using bands of windows and open floor plans, Wright was able to develop a sensation of space, even though the ceilings were not very tall. Part of the open feeling Wright produced in rooms was a result of the way he juxtaposed space.
So Mr. Wright really liked to manipulate space like that, so that this is not a real tall space, but it feels very spacious.
It feels tall, it feels open.
Yes.
And so
part of that is the way he does things is bringing the windows the doors and the windows almost up to the ceiling here. So you see in those windows in that area right up to the ceiling, so you feel like the height goes up and they're very tall. And he just plays with space that way.
And the art glass was always present.
Typically, always. It's not always art glass, because sometimes it would be windows and they'd never get the art glass put in it, but it was always projected as being this art glass screen. And he uses art glass for another reason. It really creates a screen in between, and it creates a whole geometry that if these were just windows with no art glass, you'd have a different feel in here. It's almost like it would be so open, but by adding the art glass into it, it's kind of it's a barrier, but not a barrier. And
it provides privacy while still bringing you into nature and connecting you.
Yeah, it really does create the kind of edge between the two.
It's almost like he's trying to make you feel in a cocoon while still being able to see out.
Yeah, he creates, in all the houses I've been in, the one thing that's really amazing to me is even though many of them are very big houses like this, they always have very intimate spaces in it. There's a real level of understanding how people use space.
The Frank Lloyd Wright Preservation Trust offers tours of the Roby House and Frank Lloyd Wright's original home and studio, in addition to offering maps, which show the location of Wright's homes in Oak Park. To discover more about those, visit wrightplus.org. For extra information about where I've been and what I've learned, visit my website, www.askthedecorator.com.